Well, hello everyone. I've got 3 o'clock my time, so that means it's time for art class. I'm Jim Pence, and I'm hoping that we're going to have a fun class today. Let me give you a couple things that you're going to need if you're going to draw with me today. You'll need a number 2 pencil. You can also use a marker or whatever, copy paper, some kind of a household object, or if you want, you can follow my reference photo if you can see it well enough. But whatever you want to draw is really fine. So just you decide what you'd like to draw, and we will have a good time. Before we go very far, I got a couple of announcements that I want to make here. One is a big one. It's not quite October yet, but it's heading that way. So I'm announcing our October art contest. You can win, or one person will win a choice. You can either win any one of our downloadable titles, which would be like a single Bible story DVD or one of the art class or art projects DVDs, and you can get them in download too. In fact, it would probably be better download, because with the DVD you'll have to pay for shipping. Download you can get free, but that would be your choice. Or if you already have everything, or you just don't want that, you can win a $10 Amazon gift card. So how do you do it? Well, all you have to do is send a photo of a drawing that you did in this class, and I don't mean necessarily today, but something that you do this week or next week, or really up through the end of October. So all you have to do is send a photo of it. You can either send that to me at seethelightshine.com, or you can send it to our Facebook page. Just go ahead on our Facebook page if you're on Facebook, and you can send the file as a message, not as a comment on a post, but as a message to our Facebook page, and we'll get it there. Not many rules here. The only rule is only one entry per person, but you can have multiple entries from the same family. So if there are 4 or 5 children in the family, each of you can send one picture. It doesn't really matter how good it is, and I really want to underscore this, because you might be thinking, well, I'm not that good at drawing yet, and somebody will do better. But we're not going to choose the winner based on how good the picture is. This is going to be, the names will all be drawn out of a hat, as it were. And so everybody has the same chance to win. So what I want to do is I want to get you drawing, and I want to get you sharing, because I'd like to share some of your artwork here each week when we do our live broadcast. So you have now until the last week of October to send something. And again, I won't make a decision on a winner until November 1st. So you really have up through October 31st to get something to me. And if I'm just adding the jim@seethelightshine.com email address. So if that for some reason doesn't work, just change that to info@seethelightshine.com, and I'll get it. Okay, speaking of shout outs, I have one for this week. This one is for Lillian. She did our apple drawing, our double apple drawing last week of she did a modified contour, and she did a really, really good job on it. So congratulations. Great work, Lillian, and keep drawing. Now, one other thing before we move on a little bit is I want to talk about next week, and really all the month of October. We're going to be working in Art Class Volume 2. That's, whoops, I'm not on the right layer. Fun thing about digital art, you got to be on the right layer to draw. There we go. That's that one. It's the second DVD if you have the DVDs. If you have the downloads, then it's downloads 5, 6, 7, and 8, or lessons 5, 6, 7, and 8. Or on the website, you can just get it as Volume 2. It'll have those 4 lessons. So we're going to be doing that, and we're going to be learning about shape and space. We're wrapping up our lessons on contour drawing, and what you have been learning is the first of the 7 elements of art. The elements of art are sort of the building blocks that all art is made from. And the first element, which you've been learning, is line. Okay. Next month, you're going to learn two others. You're going to learn shape, and you're going to learn space. And those are all very important art elements. So that's going to be our focus. Again, you can watch the lessons. You don't have to watch the DVD lessons. It's perfectly all right. All you have to do is come and watch here, but I won't be doing exactly the same thing she's talking about. I'm going to try to build on what Pat does in the lessons. So if you're wanting to get a little extra information and more detail than I can give you, then be sure and check out Art Class Volume 2. And so that's for next week and really all of next month. Okay, I wanted to keep you updated as to what I'm doing. This is the picture I showed you a little bit. Last week, I only had just the kind of this little section here done. I've added onto it. I've kind of built out his nose and his eye and the hat a little bit. Now, I especially wanted to show this to you because as I look at it today, I did a lot of this last night, and as I look at it today, I see a number of things where it's not quite right. The glasses here are not, or this side of the glasses are not shaped quite correctly, and they're a little too small. This eye is a little bit too small. The hat actually needs to come out a little farther, and his head actually needs to come back farther around there. You don't have the reference photo to look at, but those are some of the things I'm seeing. And I'm sharing that with you because, again, sometimes we get frustrated because, I'm drawing and it doesn't look right, and so I quit. Well, art and drawing is a process of learning. It's a process of problem solving, and part of it is looking at what you drew and being willing to critique it and say, well, I can improve this, I can change that. So I'm going to work on all of this over the next week. I'm not messing up my picture, incidentally. That's just a copy of it. I'm going to work on all of this next week and see if I can improve that before class time next week. So let's turn that off, and I need to move my layer panel out of the way for a second here. Okay, so I'm going to blow this up a little bit. And there is my shoe. That's what Pat worked on in the Volume 1, Lesson 4. And I'm going to do my version. This is a different shoe than like what she worked on. But I'm going to again show you my process. Now, if I were going to do this in detail, we'd be here for several hours. So this is going to be a real quick one, and it's going to be pretty rough, but that's okay. That's part of the learning process. So if I'm going to do a contour or a modified contour drawing, remember the difference. Blind contour means I'm not allowed to look at my paper. Modified means I can look at my reference and my paper, but I tend to look at my reference, 75 to 80% of the time, and with my paper just enough to make sure I'm doing it the way I want to. I always choose a place to start. So I'm going to choose up here at this upper left corner, and that's going to be kind of my starting point. Now, the first thing I'm going to do is go down, and so I'm going to go to my starting point, and I notice, I've got kind of it curves in a little bit here, and there's a very, very slight bend. Then down here, it curves in again, and a little bump, and then another larger bump, and then as we get down to the sole, it's going to kind of curve in to the right. You can see because the sole looks like it's worn down, because that's an old shoe. So let me start there. I'm going to come in, and just again, a very, very slight curve. It's going to kind of come in. That's probably a little too far. And then another bump. And then another bigger bump. And then there's a little tiny thing there at the bottom. maybe where the shoe is coming off the sole. I'm not quite sure what that is. And then where the sole curves in. Now my line got thick there because the pen I'm using, it depends on how much pressure I put on it as to how thick it gets. So if that happens, that's just what's going on. Okay, so that's the first thing. Now I'm going to come up here, and I notice this curves around a little bit, and then it goes on an upward slant, and then almost like a roller coaster, it's going to go down here and then drop down. Okay, so I'm going to do a little bit of a curve, and then kind of a straight upward slant, and I'm just guessing at the distance right now because I don't really have a reference point. And it's going to curve down and then drop straight down. Okay, and it's a little sharp there. That should be a little rounder. Okay, then if I get down here, I notice once it connects to the main part, the toe, there's a bump, and then another smaller bump, and then a curve down, and then another bump where it hits the sole. So I'm going to start from here, and I'm going to throw in a bump, another smaller bump, a curve down, and this is kind of a double bump because there's a really tiny one where all the stitching is, and then the sole itself. Okay, so I've got that much of the shape laid out. Okay, now the difference in this kind of contour drawing, as opposed to like drawing just an apple or just the outside shape of something, is I want to draw more of the shoe this time. So how do I do that? Because this isn't really the outside contour. This is actually, inside. If I just did a straight contour drawing, I would just come around with the sole. In fact, I'll do that now, just to finish that out. I don't have to. I could save that for later. But I have just a real nice sloping curve here, and then it kind of curves back up and then back down. So, and it's going to curve back up. Now, one thing that you do also when you're trying to do this kind of contour drawing is you look for relationships. You look for where something is in comparison to something else. So like when I come to this bend, I'm going to notice, and this will be important when I do these parts, is this little bend here is matching up pretty perfectly with those. So, and if you notice where that first one is, it's well behind this drop. So I'm going to come up here. I'm going to put my little bend in. And then it's going to go down again and come back up into the sole, okay? And then I'm going to do some of the interior, okay? Let's go here and start back where I originally started. I'm just going to pick this up here. And I'm going to go down, and if you notice, it's going to curve, and it actually kind of curves out almost completely. And then at this is about a third of the way down, it starts to come out, kind of a gentle slope, and then it comes down and comes in. Now, where does it stop? Well, if I come here, right about here is where the sole would be. And I'm just trying to match that a little bit to the other curve. It's going to come up like that. My pen got really thick here. So part of doing a drawing like this is, again, looking at the just different parts of the object you're drawing, and then trying to, again, see the relationships, see where they are. Let's come up here and do this part. Okay, if you'll notice here, there's actually, it kind of curves down in, and then it's going to go at a slightly downward angle. And this curve starts just a little bit before that one does. And it's going to curve down and slope too, and it's going to flatten out. But then it's going to come down this way. And that's a little too much of an angle there, but we'll go with it. And then it's going to curve back here. And that's a little bit too short too, but that's what we're going to go with. Okay, so next thing I would do is I'd come up here and I see that we have kind of a change in color here. So that's about a third of the way down, okay? So I'm going to come here. And then you'll notice there's a little curve there. I don't know if that's the tongue of the shoe or what. And then it seems to form a shape that comes down that way. And then this goes along the top of this little section. I don't know what the technical term is for it. And it's going to come up, and there's a kind of a little dent in there. It's going to come back in there. If I look at this one, actually this one comes out a little bit more down that way. So what I'm going to do is take that out, just change it. Don't be afraid to erase and change. That's part of the process. Okay. And then, not quite there, but let's put the holes in, or the eyelets, or the grommets, or whatever they're called. I'm going to start with the front. That first one is right about here. It's a pretty straight-on circle. Okay, this one is kind of an ellipse. This one is even more so. And this one is again more so. And the same here. Okay, so we have 5. Now you'll notice here that this one is going to be almost directly above, but a little bit to the right. And again, it's pretty good, pretty straight circle. This one here comes just before that change in color. Okay, and then we've got one here, a little bit of the way in. Oops, my pen isn't cooperating with me there. Okay, notice this one is down here and it's a little bit obscured. And then there's one more, and it's right about here. Okay, and then this actually kind of comes out here more. Whoops. And that's my modified contour drawing of a shoe. I haven't done any shading, but I'm not going to today. I mean, I could come in here and darken all this, but I'm working with one color. And the one other thing I would do here is let's draw that in, and let's do that. And then we'll just add a little shading here to show that this is the inside of the shoe. Is it perfect? No, not even close. But the idea of doing this is to, again, teach your eye and your hand to work together, to teach you to observe, learn to look at what you're drawing and really, really take notice. And we're going to do that even more as we begin to work on shape. So that is our modified contour drawing lesson for the day. And I've got one more thing I'm going to do. I'm going to bring my layers panel back in for this. Okay, and make sure I'm actually on the right layer, and that layer is no longer locked. All right. Okay, I'm going to do a quick picture for you, and this is partially for fun, but I'm also going to show you a few things about digital art while we're drawing and doing things together, because some of you may be getting interested in that. I hope you will. But I'm also going to be doing a drawing that I do a lot. I do gospel chalk artistry, and one of my favorite pictures is, well, I'll tell you more about it as I draw it, but I'll also tell you why I'm doing what I'm doing. So I'm basically doing an early morning scene here, and so I've got my airbrush set up. It's set up for high saturation. I actually want I want it to be a little bit bigger. Okay, early morning skies, I like purple, violet, even more so than typically a sunset type sky. And then I'm going to shift over to kind of a pink, just a slight pink, a magenta almost, and begin to hit the undersides of those clouds, because that's what we've got here. We've got a kind of early morning semi-clouded sky. And then as we get down to the horizon where the sun is beginning to come over the horizon, we want to add brighter light, yellower, hotter light, warmer light. Okay, when we talk about colors, we'll talk about cool and warm colors. Okay, and so you're going to use cool and warm colors. Let me get my blender here. Let's just soften that. Okay, and then what I'm going to do is I'm going to change layers. And I'm also going to change my pen, and I'm going to change my color, and I'm going to go to a straight black. Don't always use black, but I'm going to today. And I come in with just a real simple hill shape. And I'm drawing a little too fast, and my computer is saying, please slow down. I'm trying to draw, but I can't keep up with your fingers. That's the frustration of somebody who's used to drawing fast. When I do a picture like this as chalk art, I have a 7-foot tall easel, and with that easel, I draw a 4-foot by 3-foot picture, and I have to do the whole thing in about 15 minutes. So it's it's basically, that's 12 square feet in 15 minutes, and it's quite a challenge. So when I draw with my computer, I get a little bit carried away sometimes, because I can draw fast, but I don't have a particularly fast computer, and so it says, well, Jim, I'm fast at some things, but I'm not particularly fast when you're drawing at 90 miles an hour. Okay, so I've just basically blocked in a hill, a very distant mountain, and a building of some sorts. What is that? Well, we'll see in a minute. Okay, and then just for fun and to make it more interesting, this is called the brush puck here. It lets me adjust the size of the brush. Okay, and let me come up here. Let's throw a couple trees in, just for fun. If you are on the activities page, I have a video that shows you how I draw these kind of trees, and they're really pretty easy. Just add something to give it a little visual interest here. And remember, when you draw like this, keep perspective in mind, because if I draw a great big tree and it's set back here, then keep in mind that tree, if you were actually standing by it, might be about 90 feet tall. So I want to make sure that I don't let my distant objects get out of perspective with what I'm drawing up close. Okay, I've locked the layer. I'm going to go back to my airbrush, and let's go with how about a nice, well, it's a little bit bright. Let's go here, and let's begin to wake up our mountain. Or our hill, not our mountain. As the sunlight, early twilight begins to hit things, it gives things kind of a different color. They don't really look like the colors that you would see them in bright light. Let's pick up just a little bit of that orangish tone. And I'm going to come over here and begin to draw whatever this thing is over here. Actually, I know what it is. And then just a little bit of highlight. And for that, I'm going to actually come over to a liner, and let's make sure it's small enough. And let me unlock that layer again. I'm going to go back to black. Go back here. Let's see what that is. That's about right. This drawing is one that I do a lot around Easter time. And I tell the story of how the King of Kings came to the city of Jerusalem, and he came to announce the coming of the kingdom to his people. But they didn't want him. And so they took him out and they nailed him to a cross. And his followers were very sad because they thought, actually, I don't like that. I'm going to take that back. Because they thought all their dreams had kind of come to naught. Let me get back to black here for a second. In the Gospel of Luke, 2 of Jesus' disciples were headed to Emmaus, and Jesus, after his resurrection, comes up and is walking alongside them, and he says, why are you so sad? And they say, boy, are you the only one in Jerusalem who doesn't know these things? You don't know what's happened over the last few days? And he says, no, what? Well, about Jesus. He was a prophet, mighty indeed. And he died. The leaders put him to death on a cross. And Jesus, they don't recognize him. And Jesus says, wow, how slow you are to believe what the prophets have said. And then he tells them everything that the Bible said about him. And then when they finally sit down, they realize, sit down to eat, and Jesus blesses the meal, and he blesses, gives thanks for the food, and then when they realize who it is, he disappears, and they said, "Wow, didn't we know? Didn't our hearts burn within us as he sat there and as he walked along the way and told us about all of these things?" And they were so excited because they knew Jesus Christ was alive again, and their hopes were not dashed. They were just renewed. Well, we're out of time. I hope you have enjoyed this bee drawing. Send me a picture. I would love, love, love to be able to give you a shout out. Whatever you have drawn, whatever object you drew in the house, just keep drawing. Next week, we start talking about shape, the second of the 7 elements of art. And so until then, have a great week and keep drawing. And remember, don't forget to have fun. I'll see you next week.